Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Free Time Game Reviews, where I review the games that I play when no one needs me. Today we are talking about Voodoo Vince. Alright, there's just Voodoo Vince. Anyway, this is one of my favorite games on the Xbox. I got it when I was playing, or I got it after I finished my finals during college. And, I played the game all the way through. This was back in the day where nobody bought games for me. I had my own money, so I went and I got Voodoo Vince. I looked off Amazon. I found it at a cheap price. I picked it up. This is way back when I only looked at, star reviews and stuff and the cover and then made my decisions. Nobody was talking about Voodoo Vince anyway. But I played the game and I walked away with happy feelings. So I played it again, this time around. I posted the whole walkthrough on my page on this site, and this is the review for that. I also hear that Voodoo Vince is coming out early in 2017, remastered, whatever that means. Remastered, everything working beautifully, I guess. I mean, the game only had a few flaws, and whatever. Anyway, here's a review for the game. Alright, now imagine yourself in the French quarters of New Orleans. You know what I'm talking about. New Orleans, that city that went underwater like 7 years ago, and then Kanye West is talking about George Bush hates black people. That New Orleans. Well, imagine that you're in the French quarters before it was drowned, and it had a rich history of trumpets and jazz music and all of that stuff. Beads thrown into the street and given to ladies who would show you their chest, and everybody is all happy, right? Well, think about that time, and think about maybe a lady named Madame Charmaine, who is a voodoo lady at a voodoo shop. Madame Charmaine has two dolls that she likes, two voodoo dolls. You know those voodoo dolls where you stick your pins in them? You basically make a doll that kind of resembles somebody, and then you put a little piece of whatever it is that they owned on the doll to give it its magic qualities, and then you stab it with a pin. And then they go, there's something going on with my back. I don't know. I just feel a little pain, all you need is a little bit of hair, maybe a jacket, a little piece of the jacket, something that they own to make the voodoo doll actually work. Well, Madame Charmaine had two of her top favorite dolls. One of them, or the second favorite, happened to be Vince. Now, whoever the first favorite was, I have absolutely no idea. I don't even know why they made Voodoo Vince the second favorite one, and the first favorite never just pops up and does anything. Maybe that's gonna happen in the second Voodoo Vince, which will probably happen when hell freezes over, right? Anyway, now at nighttime in the voodoo shop, these two bad guys named Jeb and Fingers try to go in and rob the shop. They're looking for voodoo dust. And Madame Charmaine's voodoo dust is top notch. It's the source of her voodoo powers, right? And while they try to get the voodoo dust, they accidentally mess it up somehow and get some on Voodoo Vince, thus animating Voodoo Vince and turning him into, I don't know, kind of an animated person, Tim Burton creation or something like that. Now, as that's going on, everything's flying all over the place. Madame Charmaine walks in. She's like, what the hell's going on here? And bam, she gets hit with a chair. It was gangsta. Look, if there's a person attached to that chair, it would have been inappropriate. But since it looks like a poltergeist thing is going on and she gets busted, appropriate. She gets knocked out by the chair. So Fingers and Jeb grab her, throw her in the car, and they drive away, right? At that point, Vince wakes up. He's like, what the hell's going on? I'm animated. And then Madame Charmaine, who has some sort of psychic link to Voodoo Vince, tells him that she's being captured and he needs to come and free her up so that she can be alright, you know? And as Voodoo Vince starts to move forward, Cosmo the Inscrutable, a big talking head, a big talking floating head, which is actually a real person, reveals that he was trying to steal the voodoo power so he could take over the world. And then he starts laughing with this little puppet face. And, you know, Voodoo Vince is like, alright, well, let me go ahead and handle this. And that's how the story starts. Now, the part of the game that's like Conker's Bad Fur Day is basically because you get to talk to people who are kind of wacky individuals, and they always need something from you. And you are very sarcastic and when you have to give it to them. Because, I mean, let's be real, and we've all had to feel this. Everybody you meet seems to need something from you, and you end up doing fetch quests that you don't really want to do because you need to get things done. You know what I mean? I mean, these video games make them pretty obvious, but it's life. Unless you're the person giving orders, unless you're one of these annoying people. But throughout the game, you basically talk to people, and the people always need something in return for what they can give you, and you go complete the objectives. Now, the objectives are actually pretty interesting because they are well made. It's not just like push 3 buttons and then come back. You know what I mean? You need to collect specific things that go along with the story of the stage. Like there's a woman who needs to make an air balloon to get out of this cockroach infested area, and you got to go all through the cockroach infested area getting pieces that will help the balloon fly, you know, like a propeller, an actual balloon, some air, things like that. And you go into the places, you get those things, you know, you come back, and every place has a specific puzzle related to what it is that you have to do. And I think that they did a really good job as far as that is concerned. Now, Voodoo Vince's gameplay is basically Crash Bandicoot meets Conker's Bad Fur Day, for those of you who even remember those games. I do. Anyway, Voodoo Vince has a basic punch that's a little bit more powerful, a spin attack which is a little less powerful, but it gets a lot of people in a row just in case you're being hoarded on, a double jump, a regular jump. He's got a float, which the camera reorganizes over his head so you can be very, very secure on how you're landing after you do the float, which is very useful. And you have you can use the spin attack in the air to prolong your jump. So if you want your longest jump to happen, you do a double jump and a spin attack. The float down, I don't believe extends your jump at all. It just slows down your descent, so that's a thing. Also, I have to admit that Voodoo Vince has one of the cutest go nowhere runs in all of gaming history. I mean, he's got these teeny little feet, and when he moves forward, he's booking, you know what I'm saying? But he just don't go that far, and I've always found it very interesting. I like Voodoo Vince for that. Voodoo Vince's special mechanics are that he can use his voodoo powers to inflict pain on other people. So most of the time when he needs to take somebody down, he somehow inflicts pain on himself. It shoots out of his body and into other people, and they get the exact same feeling while Voodoo Vince gets to pop up unscathed. Now, in order to gain more of these powers, there are a bunch of trinkets that you can get throughout the stage. They're like tickets or something like that, and once you get all the tickets in every stage, a skull will pop up, and then you have to go see the skull, push the button, and you have to chase the skull. Once the skull moves around and stops at a certain point, if you can touch it before it starts moving again, you get an extension of your voodoo power meter. You also have beads that you get after you kill monsters or whatever those things are, cricket frogs or something like that. They're animals in in the world that have been warped because of the release of the voodoo powder. Once you kill them, they drop beads because Mardi Gras. So you collect enough beads, and then a woman pulls out her breasts at you, and then you give her some. No, that doesn't happen. You basically get to charge up your meter for the special moves, the voodoo power moves, which again is buttons. You push those voodoo power moves, and Vince hurts himself, and somebody around Vince gets hurt. These things are actually very useful. But the only problem is that I've noticed about halfway through the playthrough of the game that I don't really need to fight bad guys at all, other than filling up your meter that helps you destroy bad guys very quickly. There's really no point to fighting bad guys. You don't get any sort of level up. So you basically punch people till the beads come out. You collect the beads, you build up your power meter, and then you wait till a whole bunch of people are around you. You do a voodoo kill, and then you run around and collect the beads as fast as you can. And in a lot of cases, you will gain more voodoo power back from that one transaction, and really never have to hit anybody again. But it's really pointless to even hit anybody anyway, unless you really need them out of the way to do some platforming. Now, this game has some pretty decent platforming sessions. Platforming is a little difficult in 3D games, I've noticed, and that's why the people who program the games try to add things like that floating maneuver so that you can make sure your platforming is pristine. Your camera jumps with Voodoo Vince, so a lot of times you don't see the ground, and that's why the camera readjusts itself on the float, and that makes the platforming very tolerable. The only problem is that sometimes Voodoo Vince is a little clumsy, and the places that they have you stand on, though they look a little bit more realistic, sometimes it's very difficult to know where you're supposed to be standing. There's this one stage with trees, and you're supposed to swing throughout the trees and jump around on the trees and stuff like that. Voodoo Vince has big block feet, and it's it's hard. I've fallen off that place a few times, and it kind of stinks. Fortunately, with the float button, you can kind of reorganize your float to places that will help you climb up them again, but it's alright.
That was nice. Warms my heart, wherever it is.
The music in the game was a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, at the beginning, the music was real New Orleans oriented, and it was pretty nice. But there are some tracks on this game that the music was just had no place in video gaming history. You know what I'm saying? It was there was one stage, I think it was the tomb stage, in which the music was just so calming that it made you just want to stop playing. It was actually very weird, and you had to deal with the music the whole time. It just didn't move forward the actual gameplay at all. I couldn't believe it. What is up with this music? I've never heard a song or a few songs like that just totally went against gaming history. But the ones that were on point really captured the whole spirit of the game, and I thought that was pretty excellent. The bosses kind of followed the Legend of Zelda formula, in which you have to do certain things in order to hit them. But because it's Voodoo Vince, you would just basically have to survive against the bosses long enough to find an area in which you can whoop your own ass, right? Once you whoop your own ass, the pain is transferred into the boss, and the boss is, hurt. And 3 hits usually kills the boss. It's pretty rudimentary style stuff, and all you have to do is figure the things out. Now, I usually go on the internet and find out what the bosses are and what they do, because I can't stand trying to figure out all these crazy puzzles while people are trying to hit me in the face or throw trash at me, or trying to chew me up or something like that. So I look them up, and I suggest that everybody else do the same. I mean, bosses kind of suck, man. It's the gameplay that's cool. But anyway, these bosses were good. They were all pretty inventive. The actual stages really had no cohesive link together. You know what I mean? They just were different stages, and you kind of were there, and then you went to the next stage. But you know, as far as just stages going on their own, they were great. I liked it. Alright, now we get to the section of the gripes, the things I didn't like. Now, usually my gripes start to manifest themselves at the end of the game. And when you review games, you don't really tell people what happens at the end of the game. Thus, the people who are programming the game can do the most damage to you as a player. You know what I mean? You would have to go ahead and finish the game and then be frustrated beyond all hell, which you wouldn't tell somebody else other than the fact that you just got frustrated. So my biggest gripe was more at the end of the game. Now, Voodoo Vince, what I said before, he had clunky feet, and it was hard for him to platform a little bit when the platforms were smaller. But in the end parts of the game, the platforms become moving platforms, and the way that the game is organized, it was very difficult to get to certain spots. So you ended up having to do the same exact motions over and over again to get to these same areas, thus extending your playing time humongously. Now I understand, you know, you want a little challenge at the end, but I always have a problem with having to do things over and over again, you know, other than maybe boss battles or something like that. My issue is that I would have to try over and over again to try and land on a platform that was excellently made. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a part in a carnival in which there's a platform that's on like a merry-go-round. Seems to be some car seats that are moving around in a circle, and the movement is happening, and the car seats are actually flapping up and down, something like that. Now you have to time your jump to land on the car seat. And if you miss that, you have to go all the way back and do like 3 extra merry-go-round or extra rotating things like teacups and stuff to get onto that one spot, you know. And I kind of got messed up and screwed on those places, and that I had to edit a lot of actual footage out because it was super frustrating. If you want to see what I'm talking about, probably the last 3 of the videos have this sort of platforming involved. And this wasn't even like in a stage part. This was the hub world to get to the other stages, right? So in order to understand the hub world, you like wouldn't run through the stages, and then you had to jump around in the hub world to solve the problem, and then you get to move to the next hub world. That was a problem, that the hub world was too hard to navigate through. I was really pissed. Okay, that was a big gripe. The second gripe that I have is with the double jump. You can't hit your second double jump after you hit the apex of your first jump. So you jump one time, you get up to the top, and you need to hit the button before you get up to the top, or right when you get up to the top, because once you start to decline, your ability to double jump is gone now. You know, I've never seen a game that does that to you, because most of the time you can do a regular jump and then kind of hold the jump a little bit, expecting to be able to measure out how far away you are to the place that you need to get to. So you would do your jump and then hold on, and then right when you're about to hit the ground, bust another double jump. It seems very natural. I mean, having a double jump is very helpful, and it defies all logic. So why would you add a stipulation that the double jump needs to always be at the top of the first jump? Just test people's timing like way too much. And that was super frustrating, because with the camera moving with you, the double jump, you wouldn't quite know where you were at when you did the double jump. Thus, the floating move needed to happen. But all they needed to do was program the double jump to work for the whole jump, and you would be fine. Like, I don't know why they did that. That is one of the weirdest mechanic screw-ups I've had to deal with. I've dealt with a decent amount, but that one right there, in a game that had a tremendous amount of platforming, was ridiculous. Oh my goodness, the sections where you have to catapult yourself through a hole or through fire or something like that were excruciating. There's two sections, I believe. There's one where you had to fire yourself out from a cannon into a hole, and there was one section in which you needed to put yourself in a crossbow and aim the crossbow so that your trajectory would go over a candle and set you on fire, so that you can set off TNT that would blow up Egg O Evil, right? Sounds so weird when I say it out loud. Vince's trajectory on these things was deplorable. I'm talking about, you would have to get there, and there was almost no way you could calculate the trajectory of Vince on the first try. It was ridiculous. I mean, you would have to aim the reticle like 7 or 8 feet above. He'd fire, and then he'd curve down like right away, either smashing into the wall above or below. And in the case of the cannon, I had to go back and forth way too many times, to get that to work. I wish they didn't even do that. That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I'm glad that I've never had to encounter that sort of thing ever again in gaming, because trying to figure out some stupid ass ragdoll physics that was made up by a person that I don't know, in order to get a doll into a hole repeatedly over and over again, was ridiculous. I mean, the 4 times I had to attempt this and make it work were excruciatingly, horribly bad. And I couldn't believe how much pain I was going through trying to get these to work. You know what I mean? It was just a time waster indeed. I mean, the game it was enjoyable until that point, you know what I mean? Like, the other stuff I could deal with, but that thing was actually insulting. It's one of those things where you want to find the person who came up with the idea and slap the shit out of them. You know what I'm saying? It's horrible. So, I think that concludes the gripes that I have. But it stunk. Alright, so that was Voodoo Vince. It was a pretty decent game. I enjoyed it. Like I said before, I enjoyed it a lot. Even replaying it, I enjoyed a lot of stuff. I can't believe I forgot the things that really sucked about it. It's a good thing I'm making these reviews, because if I ever decide to play the game again, I can remember those horrific things and then put them in the back of my mind so that I can be ready for them, or maybe watch the replay to see exactly what I did so that I can not have to deal with it the same way. Games like this are really, really super enjoyable when those things are omitted. You know what I mean? Anyway, if you enjoyed the review, please like, subscribe, hit the thumbs up for more material. And if you hit the like button, thank you so much. You really help me out
a tremendous amount. You guys are the bee's knees. You're better than my wife in this case. You know what I mean? If you like the artwork, the cover art for this review, and you want a copy of it, please send me a message at yusuf.crow@gmail.com, and I will be sure to let you know what the price is on the print. If you want to take a look at any of my artwork, or maybe purchase any of my artwork, you can check out CraftyAcuity.org and look through there and see what you like. Otherwise, that is it for me. You guys have a nice week. Until the next review, peace.